Hey everybody, we are doing a flip lesson today since I'm at a meeting and you're working with the sub today. So you've done this before, like before, we're going to take some notes here. We're actually going to be covering two lessons today. The first one's very little notes. In fact, we're just going to define what a net is, and then you're going to be making some nets. And then the second lesson is going to be all about surface area. And so those are the two goals today of where we're going. Your learning target's all about, do you know what a net is on this first lesson? So net, write that as a vocab word, and it's not like the thing that I use to catch sixth graders with in the hallway. It's a different net than that. A net, and you've seen these before this year, is like a flat representation for a prism. So you're going to be making this one here very shortly. But that's a net for a triangular prism, because if I fold that up, it makes a triangular prism. All right? You're going to be making this net in just a little bit as well. Can you tell what that would be if I fold it up? Well, it's all rectangles on there. And when you fold it up, it's going to make a rectangular prism. So the net is the 2D thing. Now, ours are going to be 3D because I can hold them. But technically, they're flat representations. So there's our definition. A flat representation, right? Usually they're 2D. Ours today are going to be 3D of a prism. I'm going to say or a cylinder, because we're going to see cylinders nets as well. And the net really shows you everything. It shows you all of the vertices, the edges, and the faces, which are all of our vocabulary words from last time. So triangular prisms are the easiest ones to draw. And you can make nets a variety of ways. This is one way. And I'm just going to draw a little picture of this one here like this and just sketch it out. And we're gonna draw it so that it's got the three lateral faces, which remember from last class are all rectangles. And then the bases, we're going to put in the center rectangle there. And really it doesn't matter. Sometimes you'll see them at the corners, you know, like here and here, or at the other corners. Or a lot of times they're in the center. Today they're going to be in the center. But what I want you to do, just on this net here, is draw an arrow to the triangle and to that triangle, and recall for our vocab from last time. Those are the bases. And then remember what the three rectangles are called? Is the lateral face. And there's three lateral faces, right? All three of those are lateral faces. So just indicate that on your paper. That's it for this lesson. But now what you're going to do is you're going to first start with this pink one. Now yours is going to start like this, and you're going to cut it out. Now listen carefully to this. This actually, they have extras on there. I don't know if you can see this little tab up at the top. The tabs really aren't part of the net. They're just kind of there as helpers. Because if we did close it up, that's after you fold this thing and close it on the top. If you did, the tabs will actually enable it for it to close. We don't want it to close because we're going to be storing it today. But fold the tabs down, you can see right there, so that the tabs actually kind of curl over and that you can close up your rectangular prism. So we're going to cut this one out, and then at some point use my hole punch up at the front and put a hole in the side of the rectangular prism, and then you're going to do the same thing with the triangular prism. Now let me give you a couple of hints here before you start this. When you fold your folds, basically everywhere that there's a black line or an edge, you're going to fold, right? And this will work out much better for you if you fold it with really sharp creases, so that it'll stay real nice and sharp like that. So fold it well, cut it well, of course that's important too. And so get both of these cut out, get a hole in each one of them, so then you can actually see and hold a net. And then they're yours. You can put them into your notes section right along with this net notes. And so the sub will give you directions from here. You're going to cut these out and just do a little bit of classwork on that. So pause the video. That's the end of this first video right now. Hey, all right, second lesson here. Get those notes back out. Title it up 11-4 surface area. We're going to be focusing on the two shapes that you cut nets out for, which is your rectangular prism and your triangular prism. We've already done these rectangular prisms. We learned how to do this one in 6th grade, and we reviewed for it in MCAs. So we're just going to do one of these in our notes. And triangular prisms are going to be the new one today, so we're going to play with these as our second thing. And then I didn't make nets for these, but can you tell what this shape would be a net for? That's a cylinder, right? And so this one folds up like that. Next class we're doing surface area of a cylinder, which is potentially one of the toughest things we do all year. But that's for next class. So surface area, remember, is the area of the surface. So here's what we're going to do. First bullet point, we're going to find the areas plural, of all faces. And then we're going to total them up. Plain and simple. Find the area of all the faces and then total them up. So below that, we'll do the one that's kind of a review. So draw a picture of a rectangular prism, right? Remember, like we've done before, use your lines on your notebook paper. And I'm going to go kind of quick here just because you guys can pause this video if it gets moving too quick. In this rectangular prism, we're going to give dimensions of 6 inches by 10 inches with a height of 3 inches. I'll go a little faster on this one because we've done this before this year, but I want you to have an example in your notes and then for you to be able to see one here as we're doing it. Remember, you want to split this out into 3 different things. I like to call that one the front, and you're finding areas of all of our rectangles. Well, the front would be a 6 by 3. So I'm going to find the area that's 6 by 3, which is easy. You just multiply, and that's 18. And then there's 2 of those 18s because the back is identical to that. It means so far I've got a total of 36 square inches between the front and the back. Then I'm going to do the same thing, but now for the side over here. The side has a dimension of 10 by 3. So I know that side alone is 30 square inches. Now if that's 30, so is the other one, so we're going to multiply that one by 2, giving us a total of 60 between the 2 sides. Last but not least, we want to do the top. The top we know is going to be identical to the bottom. So the top is a 6 by 10. That's 60. And like the other ones, we know that there's 2 of them because of course we've got the bottom. Alright, and this is how I want you to show the work out here, just that math out there. You don't really need to write front, side, and top when you do these if you don't want to. I mean, I do it, but it just helps me organize those things, so I recommend it. But if you want to just keep those things straight, then go for it. Now you just do a grand total between the 36, 60, and 120, so I'm just going to add them up. That's going to be 6, that's 9, 11, carry the 1, so 216 is our total. So our grand total is 216. It's an area, inches squared. Done. So that's rectangular prisms. Triangular prisms are a little bit of a different story. So below this, I'm going to have you draw a picture of a triangular prism. Triangular prisms are a little more tricky because you really have to pay attention to what kind of triangle we're dealing with. So I'm going to have you draw a right triangle. Again, use your notebook paper. And we're going to make this a right isosceles triangle. So this side right here is going to be 5 inches, and so is the other leg of the right triangle. And then our hypotenuse, we're going to get to in just a second. Let's draw it first so you don't squeeze those things in there. So draw it out, right triangle. So for the hypotenuse, instead of drawing it on this one, I'm going to put it back here just because it's going to be a little bit easier to read. We're going to go 8 inches on that one. And then the height of this, just to make the numbers simple, I'm going to go 10 inches on that one's height. Now when you do a triangular prism, I'm just going to slide that over a little bit here. We want to draw a net for a triangular prism because there's all the types of triangles, whether it's isosceles, equilateral, or scalene, scalene being the toughest one, because this is going to produce 3 different lateral faces. In this case, because it's isosceles, there's going to be 2 different lateral faces. So come down here and you want to draw the net relatively large because we're going to show our work inside of our net. So draw your 3 rectangles, just like this net that you had earlier. Now think about this one. It's going to be a right triangle, and it's going to be an isosceles triangle, which means 2 of these rectangles are going to be the same size, and then the third one is going to be really big. So there's our 3, and then it's generally a pretty good idea to put your right triangle in the middle. All right, and we're not going to do this to scale. I mean, it's going to be a little off. That's not a big deal. But look at how this triangle is oriented. 5, 5, and 8. So notice what I did there. I took this 5, and put them just in the same spot, and I took the 8. Now think about this. This 8 is going to transfer down here. This 5 is going to transfer down there. That's going to be extremely important when we do our areas. The other thing we want to label is the 10 inches. The 10 inches is the length of that lateral edge, and so all of these are going to be 10s. Now look what we've got here. I know I'm going kind of quick here, so if it gets going too fast, do a little pause and then we can catch up. If you do this part wrong, you're kind of doomed, because you've got to transfer your right dimensions in order to get the right areas, which will give us the right surface area. Once this part's done, you just got to go step by step through each of the shapes. Well, this rectangle right here is a 5 by 10. So right there in your rectangle, make it big enough to write. Just show the work. 5 times 10 is 50. That's a 50. This one's also a 5 by 10. That one's 50. However, look at this one. This one's an 8 by 10, because that hypotenuse is affecting that side right there. An 80. So we have a 50 and a 50 and an 80. Those are our lateral faces. Now the triangle itself, you got to know your area formula for a triangle. Base times height divided by 2. And for this specific triangle, the base and the height are what make the 90-degree angle, so they're each 5. 5 times 5 divided by 2 is 25. Half of 25 is 12.5. So this triangle, and I like to go back and write them right in the triangle, is 12.5. And we know it's a prism, so both of the triangles are equivalent. And so both triangles are 12.5. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 when you do this, because we know both bases are going to be the same. Now look at what we got going here. We got a 12.5, a 12.5, a 50, a 50, and an 80. And so we're just going to add those things up. Excuse me. So I'm going to come over here and just write that out. I've got a 12.5, a 12.5, and I know that's 25 automatically, so then 50, 50, and 80. So I'm just going to do a little adding here. I've got 50 and 50, which is 100. That's 180. And then 180 and 25 is 205 inches squared. And that is our grand total. Notice this is way different than the rectangular prism. When we do a triangular prism, I want you to draw the net. Right? That's one example. It's way different if it's an equilateral triangle. In fact, equilateral triangles are going to be much easier because they're all 3 lateral faces are going to be the same. And it's much harder if it's a scalene triangle, because scalene triangles are going to be different lateral faces. You're going to get a sheet of classwork here in just a little bit. It's green. It looks like this. And you're going to find the surface area of the triangular prism and the rectangular prism. You're going to see a cylinder at the bottom of that. Don't do the cylinder one. That's for next class. But you're going to try one of these. Now look at this. I'm probably not getting this lined up the right way, but look at this triangular prism and notice what kind of triangle it is. I'm not going to tell you, but look at what it is, and as you draw your net, that's going to be extremely important. We're going to stop the video here, and you're going to do some practice on these things. Good luck. Have a good rest of your day, and that's it for this lesson. Thanks, you guys.